Hi, everybody. Welcome to this Board Game Life episode number 32, titled Motor City Mayhem. This show was recorded in part on March 16th, April 22nd, and April 29th, 2014. In this show, I'll be covering a whole bunch of games. For new games here, we're looking at Capo de Capi from Dr. Finn's Games, Friese's Landlord from 2F Spiel, The Builder's Middle Ages from Asmodee Bombix, and Mars Needs Mechanics from Nevermore Games. Then going back to the 20 Shows Ago segment, we're looking at June 2012, episode number 12, where we talked about Zuloretta Würfelspiel, Merchant of Venus, Manhattan Project, Airlines Europe, Jaipur, Hanging Gardens, Africana, Rapa Nui, and Agricola, all creatures big and small. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Rob, your host, as always, and this show is kind of like 3 shows in one because it pretty much is. So bits and pieces of the show are from recordings across basically 3 different nights over the past couple of weeks. Things have gotten kind of crazy with work, just working too many long hours, traveling back and forth to Detroit, and so forth, has kind of put a damper in all my recording schedules, both video and also this podcast here and all that good stuff. But so, you're not interested in hearing all about that. You want to hear about games because that's really what I want to talk about here. So let's get rolling with all that. Now, I just want to mention real quick, make sure to check out the YouTube channel where I'll have some videos up there shortly. If you haven't subscribed, it's This Board Game Life. So it's youtube.com/thisboardgamelife. And also follow This Board Game Life on Twitter, which is tboardgamelife. And as well, you can go to thisboardgamelife.com to check out all the podcasts, and there's links to the videos. And of course, if you want to hear the episode 12 that we're talking about here, you can listen to it on there and so forth, in addition to subscribing to the RSS feed. So let's get rolling with the first title. First game that I want to talk about today is going to be Capo de Capi. It's a 2013 release from Dr. Finn's Games. It was designed by Steve Finn of Dr. Finn's Games, of course. It plays 2 players in about 20 minutes or so, probably double that for your first game. And then it plays ages 8 and up. This is a dice game with a pretty sweet press your luck style of gameplay, in addition to some area control as well. And with the press your luck element, I almost like to think of it as press your luck plus, because it's got a little bit more to it than just your traditional press your luck game, like Can't Stop and so forth. A quick rundown of what the game is like. It's Prohibition time in New York City. Rival gangs of mobsters are using their influence to bribe politicians, run casinos, bootleg liquor, and gain the favor of corrupt policemen. In Capo de Capi, players compete to decide who is going to be the boss of all bosses. And, so how does the game basically work? Well, you're going to have 2 dice, a black and a white die, that you're going to be rolling, and depending on the results of your roll, you're going to get to do various actions like influence, extort, bribe, invest, and so forth. Out on the table in front of you, there's a number of pretty good-sized tiles. They're rectangular tiles, probably about maybe 3 by 4 inches, 3 by 5 inches or so. And in the center of all of these tiles, there's 7 of them total. In the center, there's the mayor, and then to either side, there's 3 tiles. Each one of them has a die from 1 to 3 on it. So there's 1 to 3 in the black and 1, 2, 3 in the white die. And they represent policemen, casino, etc. So these are the different areas. And as you're rolling your dice, like I said, you're going to get those different actions. So if you, for example, if you roll both dice in 1 to 3 on each die, so let's say like a 2 and a 2, 1 and 3, etc., you get to place an influence token from the supply next to your target card. And there's influence tokens numbered 1 through 3 that you'll be placing next to the tiles, like I said. And you can do the extort action, which is if one of the dice is a 4, then you raise the extortion level. This is an extortion level on the mayor. You raise it an appropriate level, and you take a mayor chip, and I'll go into the mayor chips in a little bit. So it's just a little token that you get with the mayor. If you roll 5s, you can do bribe. So a 5, and then a 1 through 3, or a 4, you get to do a couple of different bribe token actions there. And what a bribe token is they're basically hidden influence tokens. So these things are going to be face down, and you're putting them next to your different tiles there, and your opponent doesn't know, at least for most of the game, what those are all about. Then you can do an invest action if you roll a 6 as one of your dice. So here, if you roll a 6, you can do various things like place these value cubes, which are essentially points at the end of the game. You can place them on target cards, also reveal bribe tokens, and a couple things. If you roll doubles, what you do with these is you get special abilities again. For example, 2 1s, you get to place an influence token worth 1 next to any card. 2s with a 2, 3s with a 3, and then 5s, for example, place bribe tokens next to any card. So you can see all the different things that you can do here are essentially to place tokens next to one of the tiles, or bribe tokens, or to get mayor tokens, etc. And where the push your luck element comes in is that at no point can you have more than 2 tokens, or more than 1 token. You cannot have 2 or more next to any one tile. If you do, you bust. So this is where you have to stop rolling, and you have to claim what you have on the table. And this is a thing that I definitely have a big problem with, because I like to keep pushing my luck, and I bust. I just go, okay, just one more time. I'm just going to get one more. Oh, shouldn't have done that. And going on to the mayor tokens, this is where the gamer part of this game definitely comes in, because your traditional press your luck game is just pure press your luck. Well, these mayor tokens now kind of change that around, and they let you mitigate a lot of that luck in the press your luck portion of this game. They let you mitigate that and basically turn things in your favor. So mayor tokens can be used in terms of 1 token or 2 token actions. And you basically take your mayor tokens that you've hopefully accumulated during the game, and you return them to the supply. And let me give you an example of these different actions. So 1 chip actions include deceiving. This is where you can shift any token from next to a card to be next to another. So you're essentially moving tokens around, so that if you think that you might hit one, you can just push it over to another side to at least make it more valuable, or so forth. You can pocket, move any token from next to a card onto that card. So here you're actually claiming that token. This is a nice little action. You can kind of solidify that particular area, especially before you can bust. A payoff, you can leave a hitman in supply after rolling doubles. This is one thing I forgot to mention a little bit ago. When you roll doubles with your dice, it's good and bad. I mean, the benefit is actually really good, but what the bad part of it is that you get a hitman. If you roll another set of doubles after that, you bust. So this action here, this payoff action, lets you basically get rid of the hitman so he doesn't follow you. or it doesn't affect you, at least at that point in the game. Then you can also backstab, where the non-active player may force the active player to negate the current dice roll and re-roll. So if you're sitting there and you don't like what your opponent just did, you can pay 1 mayor token and then they got to re-roll. So they don't get that great benefit that they just rolled. Then 2 chip actions are renege, negate one's own dice roll, and re-roll. So you can use this to negate a bust, so that's very cool. If you have the mayor tokens, you can kind of save your hide there. And then Scandal, where you can raise the extortion level by 1 or 2. Now this is important because when you claim your position by basically moving your tokens from next to the board onto the boards on your side, if you have an extortion level of 5 or 6, you get to claim these little cubes that are on the mayor, and these cubes are essentially points at the end of the game. So you might want to raise that level just slightly so you can basically get more points when you claim your stuff. However, the one thing about using these mayor tokens is that if you use the mayor tokens, you got to take another turn. You can't just do something with the mayor tokens and kind of just finish your turn right there. You got to press your luck one more time. And this can get kind of ugly because you might save yourself, but you got to take another roll. And it might have been worse than what you were just in. So the mayor tokens definitely improve the press your luck style aspect of the game. They mitigate the luck, and also they're a pretty big part of this game. Now, when I was playing this game, at least initially, the mayor tokens are something that was very hard for me to really start doing because I was just so focused on the dice, just so focused like, okay, what does this mean? What is it a 4 and a 2 mean? What does a 5 and a 1 mean? And I would just kind of get caught up in that and have to keep referring to the rules before I kind of started remembering what the combinations were. And with that, I really didn't do much with the mayor tokens. And then after a couple of games, once you kind of get used to the whole rolling aspect and what the stuff means, then I started exploring the mayor portion and found that I really did a lot with those particular tokens. So if you're playing this game, definitely don't forget about the mayor tokens because they can totally change the game around. That bad roll that you just did, it could totally be negated. Or you don't like what your player or your opponent's doing, use that double mayor token on them. What is it called? Not the renege. It is the backstab. Just use the backstab on your opponent, and it's just a really cool aspect of the game. What's the goal of the game? So the goal of the game is basically to score the most victory points, and victory points are accumulated in a couple of different ways, including at the end of the game, what you wind up doing is you look at the influence tokens that you have versus your opponent. The person on that particular tile who has the most essentially wins that tile, and that tile is worth a point. So there's 6 different tiles that you're vying for. Each of them is worth a point. And if they have extra cubes on them, then the cubes are additional points. So if there's a tile that you just won, it's got 2 cubes on it, that's worth 3 points right there. So you're looking to accumulate the most victory points by pressing your luck and controlling as many of the 6 area cards as you can and claiming the most cubes. There you go. Is the game easy to pick up? I'd say it's extremely easy to pick up. Not always easy to win because you have to kind of control yourself. Because, like I said, I press my luck a lot, almost too much with this game, and it really does wind up hurting me, unfortunately. Moving on to the components of the game, the box is something else. It's really thick. It's super thick, really good quality, really sturdy. I was very impressed by it. The bits that you get, the cardboard, or whatever you call it, not punch board. Anyway, I'll call it cardboard. The cardboard is fairly thick, nice and sturdy. They have a nice feel to them. The art on it is pretty good. It's definitely like your 1920, 30 mobster style art. Kind of reminds me of like The Godfather, all those old style movies that you have. So it's very thematically drawn in that respect. The punching out of the tokens was pretty nice. No issues there, and it's definitely colorblind friendly. One thing that I have kind of a teeny tiny minor little gripe on this is that the pawns that you get, there's the Hitman pawn, and then there's a pawn for the extortion track on the mayor. They're kind of small. I just wish they were a little bit bigger, but this is not an issue. Not an issue at all with gameplay. It's just kind of a preference thing, and I guess it's very easy to substitute out with whatever you want. Then the rule book. The rule book is pretty good. It's was this about 12 pages? Yeah, 12 pages of rules. It explains everything pretty good. I found myself having to keep referring to the rules over and over and over for the first couple of games just to kind of remember what the different actions were or the different dice combinations. After you get a couple of games under your belt, you'll find that you don't need to refer to the rules as much. And there's a couple of sections that have some like rules explanations or unique situation explanations. There's these little player aids that have kind of like FAQs, or not like FAQs, they are FAQs on the back of them. So they explain some, I guess, common questions that people have with the game, and they really do help a lot. So the player aids are definitely a big thumbs up. And I'd probably have to say also that this box is definitely foam core worthy, because I kind of have an idea of what I want to do with this thing. I'd like to make some trays that you can pull out and put on either side to help setup of the game. Not that setup's difficult with the game. It's by no means difficult, but I'm going to see what I can whip up with that. Another thing that was kind of odd was when you're first learning to play the game, the instructions tell you to look at a picture on the bottom of the box to see how the table is set up. I was kind of irked by that, just slightly, because I had stuff in the box, and so I'm like lifting the box up above my head, and I'm looking up at it, trying to keep from spilling stuff out, just to see how the table gets set up. But once you play the game once, you don't need that anymore. So I guess it was a space saving method, so you don't have to burn up another page in the rule book. But yeah, that's another just teeny tiny little minor thing. Is the game fun? Heck yeah. I really enjoy this game. I like some press your luck games. I used to play a lot of Can't Stop back in the day with my wife, and quickly got tired of that thing. That's for sure. And this thing kind of scratches that press your luck itch, but like I said, it adds a whole new level of gameplay, and it's like press your luck plus, again, meaning extra, not in addition to, but it's got this press your luck element to it that can really be changed around by using those mirror tokens. Definitely don't forget about those things. And kind of like a wrap up for this game here, I definitely enjoy this game. It's something I would definitely recommend. I've played it with a number of people now, and everybody's really enjoyed it. My wife, when I showed her this thing, she wanted to play it again immediately, which is definitely a good sign. And if you like two-player games, you like press your luck games, definitely check this thing out. It's out in stores now. It came out a couple of weeks ago, and it was also on Kickstarter, so Kickstarter backers should have it by now as well. And the game is definitely replayable. So that was Capo and Capi from Dr. Finn's Games. Definitely check this one out. All right, the next game I want to talk about is Friese's Landlord. This is a 2013 release by 2F Spiel, designed by Friese. It plays 2 to 6 players in about 40 minutes or so, ages 12 and up. It's a card game with a really cool hand management, table building, tenant apartment management type of setup, and I'll go into that in a little bit here. A rundown of how the game, or about the game, is in Friese's Landlord. You are all ruthless landlords trying to earn as much money as you can with all sorts of tenants moving into your houses, the family, a man with a dog, sometimes even odd ones. All tenants dream of getting a premium apartment, but most often you offer them low rent flats. But beware of squatters. With the help of various action cards, you try to get essential advantages or defend yourself against mean attacks. And boy, there's a lot of those, that's for sure. At the expense of your fellow players, if necessary, or even the poor tenants. So this game comes in a small box of sorts. It's like Friday, if you guys remember that game, where it's probably, I don't know, about 5 inches square and maybe about 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall. So it's a fairly small form factor, and it's got those cards that a lot of Friedeman's games have, where they're kind of long, so they're not your typical American or Euro style cards. Sorts, I don't even know what you would call these things other than custom 2F Spiel cards. So the cards are really nicely drawn. They've got your typical 2F Spiel art that is in a lot of the games, like Copycat and Friday and so forth. And I'm really starting to like this style art as well. And the cards, there's over 100 of them. The cards have a number of different drawings on them. So you get a whole bunch which are roofs. So it's essentially just the roof of a building. And then other cards will have various tenants on them, various actions, abilities, and so forth. And that'll be on one side. And then on the opposite side will be an apartment, or essentially a floor. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be getting these cards, and there's a draw deck on the table, and you'll have in your hand a number of these cards. And what you do is you can play them to the table, and you can play them to the table in one of two different ways. You can build a building, and when you build a building, what you do is you place a certain number of these cards with the building side facing up, and each of these will then be a floor or an apartment. So, for example, you put 3 of these down, one on top of the other, and then, or not on top of another, meaning a stack, but next to each other. And you've now created a 3-story building, and then you throw a roof on top of it. Your first building is free, and then each additional building costs. So your second building that you have costs you 1 money, and so forth. So you do have to pay for these buildings. Once you have your buildings built, you can now put tenants in them, and this is kind of a neat mechanism in the game where you have different characters in the game. Like one is the nobles. These are the guys that are kind of eccentric. They don't like to live with anybody else, so you have a very short building for them, but they pay a lot of rent. So you go through and you'll play all your cards to the table, as many as you want. So you can basically wipe out your entire hand, put it to the table, if you can, because you can't always do that, unfortunately. But once you play all of them down to the table, you can collect your rent, which is how you get points in the game, essentially, because at the end of the game, the person with the most money wins. So I guess it's money and victory points simultaneously. And you also have ability cards in there where you can do all sorts of nasty stuff to people. You can move tenants out of their buildings into your buildings. You can blow up their buildings. You can demolish buildings. All sorts of fun stuff. And this is where this game gets it's kind of nasty. where you can people always seem to like look at each other's buildings that they have out in front of them. Like, you're sitting there and you're planning out your move. You're putting cards onto the table and everybody's watching you. And then they look over at each other's. Everybody's scheming, everybody's plotting to see what they can do. And you just, let's say you throw out the nobles, which give you, I believe it was 6 money. Yeah, they pay $6 or whatever the currency amount is. They pay $6, and so they're highly sought after. So you go through, and it's like, hey, you move them from that other person's building over into yours, or you got somebody who's just got this hugely loaded up building, so you bomb it, and there is a defense for the bomb. Which is kind of neat. So there's an alibi, and there's one other card. Oh, the name escapes me right now. So if you bomb somebody, the police is looking now for whoever bombed the building, and essentially it rotates around the table. And if you don't have an alibi, I think the other one was a lawyer or something. Anyway, if you don't have an alibi, for example, you go to jail. And what jail does is it limits you. You can't collect rent for the turns until you pay your way out of jail. So it's got some really cool mechanisms in that respect, where you can build the buildings, you can put tenants in there, and you find that the tenants move around a lot. They move around a lot. People take them from you, or they might give you a tenant that you don't want. Like there's some that have some unique circumstances, like the musicians, when they move in, all the other tenants move out, and they have to get relocated to other buildings. They don't have to be your buildings, so if somebody throws a musician in, they might have to go to somebody else because they have to go somewhere, and you might not have the room for them. So there's a lot of really cool gameplay in that respect, and I find it a lot of fun. Going on to the rules, the rule book is 16 pages. It has a number of examples. It's got kind of a fairly good glossary that explains all the different cards and what they do and how they work. And this is another one that you find yourself referring to quite often, just because the circumstances for some of these cards, you really need to kind of think about it and make sure that you're applying it in the right way. One thing that I've kind of found out is if an opponent says, "Hey, let me see that rule book," something's going to happen. There's some kind of trouble that's brewing, and hopefully you're not going to be the victim of that. Game plays up until a point of where the draw pile is depleted. At that point, everybody goes through and they kind of finish up their turns, and then the person who has the most money collected is the winner. And the money is represented by these plastic tokens. They're okay. They're multicolor. We've got, let's see here, like green, blue, yellow, red, different denominations. The denominations are kind of hard to read. They're just embossed, stamped, whatever you want to call it, onto these things. And they're like they're solid tiddlywink style chips. So the money's okay. Nothing special. If you have poker chips, you'll probably use those instead. Another thing that I noticed about the game as well is that it plays quicker with more people, which really kind of surprised me, because usually it's the opposite. The more people you have, the slower a game goes. Playing this thing with 4 people, it just zoomed by, probably because what really happens is the deck gets depleted quicker than a 2-player game. So both 2, 3, and 4-player games were enjoyable. I haven't played it with 5 or 6. I'm not quite sure how that would work out, if it would play too fast. I would imagine that you don't get to build as much with 6 players. So overall, this is a game that I really enjoyed. I'm a big fan of Friedemann Friese's games. This is an actual reprint, I believe. I believe Landlord came out a number of years ago, and this is a recent reprint of it with some changes to it. I don't know all what was changed between this reprint and the original one, but it's definitely a lot of fun. Kind of a bad thing about this, though, is I don't think you can get it readily in the United States. I got this game when Fun Again brought the games over from Essen last year. So this was one of the ones that I picked up from their Essen sale of sorts. So hopefully it'll be more readily available here in the United States, because it's definitely a fun game, and it's worth being in people's collections. So again, this is a pretty sweet little card game. Definitely enjoy it. The people that would like it would be the ones that like Take That games, because there is a high degree of that. I guess that's a con for some people that don't like. It's not really a mean game, but it's not kind, if I can say that. So if you like Take That games, if you like plotting against other people and taking their stuff and so forth, you'll probably like this game. It might not be your thing if you don't like mean games at all, or at least aren't open to them. It's definitely replayable. It plays longer with 2 players than it does with 4. That's for sure. So when you play with multiple people, it definitely goes pretty quick. So that is Friese's Landlord. Definitely enjoyed that game as well. Moving on, the next game I'm going to be talking about today is The Builders Middle Ages, 2013 release by Asmodee Bombix, designed by Frederick Henry, 2 to 4 players, plays in about 30 minutes or so, ages 10 and up. It's a card game with a set collection in it. What's this game about? In the Builders Middle Ages, the cards represent buildings or workers. Players score points and gain money by completing the construction of buildings, while placing a worker on a construction site costs money. Each building has 4 characteristics: carpentry, masonry, architecture, tilery. Is that a word, tilery? Anyway, rated between 0 and 5. And workers have the same characteristics, valued in the same range. To complete a construction, the players must add enough workers to cover the 4 characteristics of the building. So that's kind of a quick rundown over there, and that definitely sounds like a translated description there. That's for sure. So again, what do you do in this building? Well, you have 2 types of cards. Or what do you do in this game? I don't know if I said building or not. Anyway, what do you do in this game is you have 2 types of cards. There's big square cards. Don't know how I feel about the square cards, but they're in this game and they're actually pretty nice, so I'll let it slide here. But you have the square tiles or square cards, which are buildings or machines of sorts. Like there's a crane, there's a wooden shack, windmill, forge, cowshed, and would that be a barn? Anyway, cowshed. And then you also have workers. You have a starting set of workers, which are apprentices, and then you have craftsmen of various kinds. And the craftsmen and apprentices will have your 4 different kinds of what do they call them? Characteristics: carpentry, masonry, architecture, and tilery. And there's little ticks next to them from 1 to 5, depending on the worker card. And what you're looking to do is you're looking to satisfy the requirements for a building. So, for example, here I'm looking at the wooden shed. So the wooden shed, in order to complete it, you need 0. Was this probably masonry? Yeah, 0 masonry. You need 1 carpenter, 1 architecture, and no tile. So you need 2 little tick marks here on your workers in order to satisfy these requirements. So what you're basically doing is you're looking to collect workers of different kinds, and you're looking to play them onto the table to complete these buildings. When you complete a building, you get various benefits, usually in form of money and points. So the money will help you buy other workers and score points at the end of the game, I believe, as well. And the points, they help you with points, of course. When you build a machine, like, for example, the one that I just mentioned, which was the crane, when you build that, it's worth points. So the crane, as an example here, is worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. But it also provides you with 3 masonry points. So you're essentially using this as a worker. So it helps you build the buildings even quicker. So you go through up until the point where one person has 17 points, at which point, and this is on the cards only, and you have 17 points, which is kind of an odd ending point there, because usually it'll be like 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever number. So, but in this game, it's 17 points. You finish the round out, and then the person with the most points on the cards wins. It's a fairly easy game. It's got a fair amount of cards to it. Let me see if I can find the amount of cards. So there's 47 building cards and 42 worker cards. So what is that? 89 cards total. And it is kind of like what I actually consider like a micro game, mini micro game or whatnot. It's a fun game, small form factor, and it's fun. I know a lot of people think the micros are, your 6, 10, 15, 16 card games. But to me, this game kind of fits that same niche a little bit, and it's a lot more satisfying than a lot of those micro games that people are touting at nowadays. In terms of components and quality and everything like that, the game comes in a tin, which is a big annoyance of mine. However, now I've got a bunch of these games in this tin, actually from the same publisher here. So they actually do stack okay. So once you have a couple of them, you're in better shape than you have one. The annoying thing about the tins, and don't get me wrong, the tin looks really nice. The artwork on it's fantastic. It's got that textured embossing on the cover. It's really well done. It's just they're annoying because they don't sit well on the shelf, and I'm always worried about damaging them. Well, I guess wooden boxes get damaged as well. But it's got a tin, and it's got some money, which is these plastic coins, which they're plastic coins. Nothing special about them. But overall, the quality artwork on the cards is fantastic. The coins are just okay, and the tin is annoying, but it's okay once you get a bunch of them together. The rules are 8 pages. The game is pretty simple to learn, so the rules are definitely sufficient. Let's see what else I can say about this. The rules are easy to read, and that's just pretty much it about the game. I can't really think of much more to say, although I enjoy it. It's a fun little filler style game. Get people to play it here and there, that was the Builders Middle Ages. Definitely check that out. again, if you want a light card game, that's definitely portable, and it has that neat little mechanism where you get to just find the right workers for the building and gain the benefits that way. That's probably the coolest part of the game right there. It's just finding the right combinations and completing the buildings. So if you like that kind of stuff, definitely check this game out. That was The Builders Middle Ages. And the final game for the show that I want to talk about is Mars Needs Mechanics. This is a 2013 release by Nevermore Games, designed by Ben Rossett. Plays 2 to 4 people, 45 minutes approximately, and ages 8 and up. It's an economic style game that uses cards in addition to a board, and it features set collection with those cards. Basically, players represent engineers and tinkerers from all over the empire who have come to compete for this prestigious opportunity. Starting the game with only 30 cogs, and that's the money in the game, the players will utilize unique game mechanisms that emphasize timing to control sets of components and build steampunk mechanisms aimed at earning even more cogs. At the end of the competition, the engineer with the most cogs will earn his place as astronautical engineer on the crew of the HMS Victoria 7. So this is a pretty sweet little economic game that is surprisingly fun. Most people, when they think of economic games, you can pretty much rest assured that they really think of, economic, it's going to be dry, it's going to take about 3-4 hours, I'm going to be bored probably after the first half hour. Well, this game isn't like that. It's actually pretty enjoyable, at least it is for me. Where in this game, there's a deck on the table, and you're purchasing cards from a market that gets each turn more cards come out into this market. So you're going to be using your cogs to purchase cards from the market to build up sets of cards in your hand. And then the board does a couple of different things on the board on the table. First off is that's where you have the market prices for the different styles of goods, for example. So there's a couple different kinds. There's like a lens, there's a magnet, a wire, cogs. So that's a couple of different kinds. And these things will have values anywhere from 1 to 9. So, for example, if the value of, let's say, the magnet is 1, that's really cheap to buy. So, you can buy these cards for only 1 cog each. If it's 9, then it's real expensive. It costs 9 cogs to buy that item. At the beginning of the game, everything starts out at 5, and there's a pretty cool mechanism again where the pricing of the different items adjusts. So what happens is, like, when it's your turn, let's say you buy a magnet. We'll use that. As you buy a magnet, then the magnet, there's these discs that you have, one for each kind, at the top of the board. The magnet goes into first place. So you pick up, after you buy your magnet, you move your magnet token on the board all the way to the front of the line. And the way that this functions is that basically stuff that gets bought moves to the front of the line. And then once the round is over, these prices adjust. So things at the back of the line, their prices go down by 1. Whatever's in the middle, because there's 7 different kinds, whatever is in the middle of that row, it stays the same. And then whatever's in the front of that, so the 3 items that are in the front, those prices go up by 1. So this is how the prices adjust based on purchasing and need, desire, whatever you want to call it. So going back to what I was saying is that you go through and you buy cards from the market, put them in your hand, and then when you sell them based on their current price as well. And you have to have at least 3 cards of any particular type in order to sell them. So if you have, let's say, 2 or 3 wires, and the wires have a value of 7 each, you'll get 21 cogs by selling that a set of 3 cards there. You also have scrap cards, which are essentially wilds, but they don't count. And what I mean is they don't count in terms of value, in terms of getting money, getting cogs, but they do let you sell. So, for example, using the wire there, you can have 2 wire and a scrap. If the wire's value 7, the scrap gives you that 3rd card, so you can sell them, but you only get 14 cogs for that. So the game basically, after each round of going through and buying and selling, the market gets reset, and once all of the cards in the deck run out, the game basically ends. You finish up, and then the person with the most cogs wins. You also have an ability to build a mechanism, and the mechanisms will influence the gameplay as long as they're built. So you will use some of the different items that you purchase from your hand. So it'll be like, let's say, like 2 particular cards. You put them down in front of you, it locks them up while you have those that mechanism built, and you can break down the mechanism to get the cards back to sell them. So these mechanisms give you special abilities and certain advantages in the game. So a couple of things I want to mention about that is that when I've played the game, the odd thing about it is that nobody really took advantage of the mechanisms, including myself. It's sort of like they almost got ignored. So I really need to play this game again and kind of explore those mechanisms a little more, because there's got to be a reason why they're there. There's got to be a reason, or there's got to be some benefits to them where like it really helps you in the game. But nobody seemed to see that, at least on their first plays. So I definitely got to check that out again. And then the whole market action is really interesting. I mentioned it a little bit ago as I explained it, but it's really interesting, and I really like that aspect of it. It's surprising to me also that you don't really wind up with a lot of money in the game. You start off with 30 cogs, and you immediately spend them. So when you get them back, you only might get a couple more back. Well, hopefully you didn't lose money in the exchange. But, in those games where, somebody's got like, 400 money worth of points at the end, this is not one of those. You'll be lucky if you wind up with more than 30, I think, in this game. If you wound up with more than you started with, you definitely did something right. Moving on to components of the game. The game comes in what I like to call like an Aaliyah-sized or style box. So it's a fairly good size, definitely shelf-friendly. The quality of everything is pretty good. The board is real nice. The rules are well done. You get a number of different cogs or different denominations. There's a 1, 5, and 10. The 10s look like, what do they call them? Sprockets? No, or gears or sprockets with like a punched out center. And this is one thing I want to make mention of in particular, is that when you're punching these cogs out, pay close attention to the number 1 denomination, because the number 1 denomination is the center of the gear or the sprocket. When I punched these, I was ready to throw them out. I was ready to put him in the bin. But luckily I'd seen what it was early enough on, and then I put him in a bag instead of the bin. So definitely pay attention to that. You don't want to throw them out on accident. So it's a pretty clever little way to use space efficiently, I guess, on their behalf. Everything punched out pretty good. The quality of the game is pretty nice. I'm definitely happy with that. You do get a fairly large first player token. It's this big rocket ship. Very well done. Nice blue color. Definitely like that a lot. The rules are pretty good. They do a good job explaining the mechanisms and so forth. Definitely keep it handy on your first play to just refer to some of the rules. We found that we just need to go back just to get teeny tiny little minor clarifications that arose for questions that arose in the game. So rule book's good. The quality of everything is pretty good. And I guess that's pretty much about it. I did enjoy this game. It's a good, fun, light economic game. It's a little bit harder economy-wise in terms of you're not going to get a billion cogs at the end of the game. If you got more than what you started, I think you did good. I'd give you a thumbs up for your score there. The game is not too heavy. It has a nice set collection card mechanic. I love card games, so the fact that it's a set collection in addition to economy is definitely a plus in my book. If you're looking for, a brain burnery economy game, this is not it. It doesn't even pretend to be it, and I'm glad it doesn't, because I wouldn't like it as much as I do. So I enjoy this game. I definitely recommend it. If you like card games and you want a cool little economy card game as well, definitely check it out. And it's got pretty good replayability. So that was Mars Needs Mechanics. I definitely enjoy this one as well. For a couple of shows now, I've had a little segment in them where I've gone through in my work travels to different cities across the U.S. and I hit up a couple of local game stores just to check them out, see how they are, and maybe even to find that dusty old game on the shelf that the locals have been ignoring. So I was back in Detroit for work actually a couple of times now, and my last trip out there, I stopped out at RIW Hobbies in Livonia. In the last episode, I had talked about this one as well. That was my first trip out to RIW Hobbies. And so on the second visit, it was on a different day. I was actually just coming from the airport, heading over to the hotel, and I figured, hey, why not? It's on the way. I'll just stop in there, because I was waiting for a coworker to come out. He had a different flight. He was going to show up a couple hours later. So I went out to RIW, and I was kind of just walking around, just checking things out, checking out the selection, also checking the store out. And one thing that I noticed this time that I somehow totally missed last time that I was out there is that they have a huge game room next door to the store. And then once you go into the store and then towards the back, there's a set of doors that join the two spaces together. And I was really shocked at this place. It was very spacious. It was clean. There's a ton of people in there having lots of fun. They even had sofas, I guess, to hang out in the back. They had TVs. And I haven't really seen any place like it. I give that a double thumbs up. It's a really nice space. And those folks out there that are gaming out there are pretty darn lucky to have that, especially with, a lot of... gaming areas in the stores. They're either kind of dingy, kind of nasty. They have the folding tables, just kind of thrown together. This place seems to do it pretty right. Although I didn't have the opportunity to do any gaming over there, so I can't speak from personal experience how it is to game over there. But just from what I was able to see, during that trip out there. I was definitely impressed. So they probably get the number one spot in terms of game spaces from just about any place that I've seen. Kind of a recap on the store, and the staff is pretty friendly, definitely attentive. They look to help you out. They just don't ignore you. And then as soon as you walk in the store, right up in front, they have the new releases on the board games, and the board games are usually what I'm checking out. I kind of not ignore everything else, but I definitely don't pay attention to the minis or the Magic stuff, the collectible card games. I definitely don't pay attention to those as much as I do the board games. So the new releases were right up in front of the store. On the right-hand side of the store, like going all the way towards the back, is a pretty big counter. That's where all the card games are. And when I say card games, I mean Magic and so forth. They got all the cards that they're selling, and everything's up on a back wall. So you definitely have to talk to the store staff in order to get help with that. On the left-hand side along the wall is all the board games, and there's a ton of them. There's a little bit of everything. Also, again, some titles that I was kind of surprised to see because they're not very common in a lot of stores. Some Euro stuff. But for the most part, it's just, sections for Z-Man, Days of Wonder. You got your military games, got your Euros, a little bit of everything. I'm definitely happy with their selection as well. And then also new this time around, I don't know if it was there before, but all the way in the back, there's a sales section. It's got some pretty good prices. I think at least half off on the titles back there. I guess they're trying to clear out some inventory. So it's very cool they do that. I know a lot of places will just let a game sit on a shelf forever, but at least these guys want to help reduce some of their inventory, hopefully to make space for new games. Yeah, that's RIW Hobbies in Livonia. I think the next time I'm out in Detroit, I'm definitely going to check them out again because they're definitely worth checking out. And then another store that I hit, actually, I found it on my way to RIW Hobbies. It's called Pandemonium. It was just kind of something I caught out of the corner of my eye, and I turned back around and I checked it out. So this is... it's a store that really specializes in mini-style games. Once you go into the store, it's got a huge, massive gaming area. And it's your typical gaming area for minis and so forth. Inside the store, it's probably 80%, if not more, geared towards minis. And it's got a small board game selection and probably the best selection out of the mini heavy stores that I've come across so far. They even had some Z-Man games in addition to all of your, typical mini style board games. I can't really say too much about that other than, it's if you're into minis, you're probably going to like this store. Again, I'm into the board game, so this really wasn't for me. I don't know if I would go back. So that's Pandemonium. Again, mini heavy. Board games, very small selection, but probably better than most mini heavy stores. So that's my travels for Detroit. The next segment here is 20 shows ago. 20 shows ago for this show, we're going back to June 8th, 2012 for episode number 12, titled Kickstart My Heart. Now, this show was a whopper. It was almost 3 hours long. And 3 hours of just gaming goodness. And then a couple of the games that we talked about in this show, and I'll go over and kind of give you my thoughts on what I think about them 20 shows later, almost 2 years later. Got to play a lot of these games multiple times and just kind of talk about, changing tastes and experiences over time with these games. So first off is Zooloretto Würfelspiel. Now, this was the German release of Zooloretto, the dice game, and it's come out in an English release last year in 2013. I believe it was released right around Gen Con time. So this was the German release of the game. The game is pretty much rules Well, it's got German rules, but the game itself is kind of independent, language independent, because it's got animals on it. You get a couple dice again, and score pads and so forth that you really, I mean, it doesn't really matter too much what language the game itself comes in. This is a game that I enjoyed quite a bit initially. I've cooled off on it somewhat. I'll definitely play it, and I play it here and there. My wife still enjoys it. She plays it on Yucatan. But it's an enjoyable game, definitely filler territory. I'd still say it's good enough to play nowadays as well. Just I don't seek it out too much. Then Merchant of Venus, a big topic on the show was what's going on with the game, because there was a little bit of drama going on with the show just because of the whole two different companies working to bring it to market. And then thankfully later on that year in 2012, it did hit the market. At least I think it was 2012. Maybe it was later. But it did hit the market. It was brought out by Fantasy Flight, and Stronghold Games was brought on as a consultant to the game. And I'm glad the thing got out. They did a pretty nice job. There's been a lot of controversy of sorts, or not like controversy, maybe like opinions as to which game is better, because this game included a classic and then a re-engineered version, kind of a more up-to-date version. Some people swear by the classic. It's the best way to play it. They don't like the new version, and other people are fine with the new version as well. So yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to come out with anything for this game, just because Fantasy Flight, they love their add-ons. They love their expansions and so forth. We'd like to see if they're going to come out with anything. I haven't really heard anything. I'm just kind of curious as I say it right here. But again, I'm really glad that this game came out. Moving on, Manhattan Project. Wow, Manhattan Project is a fantastic game, and it definitely sits on the top of my game rankings as one of my favorite games that I have in my collection. And it's one that I'll play at the drop of a hat. It's like if anybody's even there, if they go, hey, what's this thing? Okay, let's play it. So Manhattan Project just, was this maybe about 8 months ago or so? They had an expansion come out. It was on Kickstarter for some time, and it got released. It adds a whole bunch of different elements to the game. You can play with one of them or multiple of them. Definitely consider getting that expansion in addition to the game, and get the game. Period. It's definitely one that I give high praise to, and I enjoy it a lot. I've enjoyed every single play of this game, and I don't see that changing at all. It's a fantastic, fantastic game. Airlines Europe. This was a pretty cool little game. A lot of people enjoy this game. I played it a number of times, including one time the power was out. So we had one of those LED lanterns. We set it up on the floor, and we were playing it in the dark. It was probably like 9 o'clock at night, pitch black in the house, and we're playing Airlines Europe. It's definitely a fun game. I won't go into it too much. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. A lot of people call it kind of like another gateway style game, and I pretty much agree to that. It's kind of like Ticket to Ride, airplanes, economic game. Definitely enjoyable. I kind of forget about this game on most occasions. I don't even think about it for some reason. But now that this conversation here has resparked my Airlines Europe in my mind, I definitely would consider it for the next introductory game for somebody that I'm trying to bring into the hobby. Next is Jaipur, another fantastic game. Love this game. I play it online occasionally on on Yucatan, I believe, and I definitely enjoy it. It's one that my wife will ask for occasionally. I'll play it. It's definitely a good game to introduce to people when you're trying to bring them into the hobby again, and it's a fairly quick game. Small footprint, You don't need a huge table to play it. There's no huge board. It's just a bunch of cards, a bunch of tokens, and a lot of fun. Definitely recommend this. I think that this one is being reprinted. At least I thought I remember seeing something on BGG a while back. I don't know if that's happened yet, but there was some talk of reprinting it because I believe it was hard to find for some time. Hanging Gardens. This is a game that I get to the table every couple of months. It's a card game where you stack your cards in different configurations. I guess you're doing the Hanging Gardens of Babylon or whatever that was. Anyway, it's got a really cool little building action where you're trying to orient these cards to put these different not temples, these different shapes, or let's just call them shapes, these different shapes or building parts onto the table, but you can't put them on the table directly. These cards they're like in 6 area grids. So there's, 2 rows of 3, I guess. And you put them down on a table. Some of those spots will have like building parts, others won't. They'll be empty. The empty ones can hang off on the table, but your buildings need to be on top of other cards. So I don't think I did that game justice with my little explanation over there. You kind of have to see it in order to know what I mean. But it's a really cool game. It's got kind of like a spatial aspect. You got to figure out where you can place this thing and place it properly. And then you're looking at doing various like collections of these tiles from kind of like a market of sorts. But this is a game that I really enjoy. I really enjoy this game. I'll definitely play it each and every time somebody even mentions the game, just because I think it's kind of an underappreciated game. I don't think it got anywhere near the love that it deserves, because it is a really cool game. There's a version of this also on Yucata. It's also one of those games that is kind of wonky on Yucata a little bit. Just a little odd the way you have to play it and orient the cards. I tried showing it to my wife, and she likes the card game well enough, but she had serious problems with the controls and so forth on Yucata. But I don't know if you could do it any better in terms of a board game adaptation on Yucata. So Hanging Gardens, another one, gets a thumbs up for me. Africana. This was a game that was kind of a pleasant surprise, a Michael Schacht game, again, where you're basically explorers going through Africa, and you're building routes and going from place to place, delivering things. And it's got that cool little book mechanism from Valdora. I think it was, Valdora was the one that was the first game that had it. But anyway, you have these little wooden holders for your cards, and you flip the cards on there as if it was a book, which is kind of neat. So you'll take the card from the left and then, flip it over, put it on the right side, and you can go through multiple times. I believe the first flip is free, and then after that you have to pay to flip in order to buy those cards. So it's a cool little mechanism that got, a little bit of press initially when the game came out. It's like, hey, look at this cool mechanism, with the book and so forth. After the game kind of came out, it just dropped off the radar. I guess a lot of people just lost interest, or they weren't into the game, as it just lost the buzz. And it kind of lost the buzz with me as well. Played it a bunch of times initially, and haven't brought it out to the table in probably at least a year and a half, if not more. Oh, we also talked about Rapa Nui. Rapa Nui is a game that I'm kind of bummed it hasn't come into the United States, and I don't think it will. It's a cool little card game. Again, I'm kind of a card game nut. I enjoy them a lot, and small form factor and all that. And I really hope that this game finds its way over to the U.S. I was kind of holding out to see if there could be a U.S. release to this. but eventually I'll probably just wind up picking up a German version for myself. I believe this one's also available on Yucata, if I remember correctly. So if you have a moment, definitely check it out. Cool little mechanisms in there. And then lastly, there's Agricola, All Creatures, Big and Small. This is an awesome little game. It takes some of the cool aspects of Agricola and puts it into a small form factor 2-player game. It's not a very quick game. It can take half an hour to play these games, especially if you're playing with somebody for the first time. But it's an amazing, amazing game. There's been 2 expansions out for it so far. Something like More Buildings, Big and Small, or something like that. Anyway, there's 2 more expansions. I've got one of them. I haven't tried the second. I haven't looked into the second one yet. But I was very pleased with this game. This game is a lot of fun. And then they also came out with that Le Havre game, Inland Port, as well. So I hope they come out with a couple more of these small 2-player adaptations to these games. That would definitely be cool to see. But Agricola, All Creatures, Big and Small definitely gets a thumbs up in my book. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Okay, so that was about it for 20 shows ago. Game Lust this time around, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot to say. At least I can't really think of too much that is really on my radar right now. It's kind of a dry spell. Not a whole lot coming out right now. We're still waiting for Gen Con, Origins, and all that to roll around. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of activity in the next couple of weeks or months. The one thing that has my interest peaked a little bit is Marvel Dice Masters. I'm definitely interested in checking that out. Not quite sure on the whole collectible aspect of it. The game itself is pretty cheap, $15, but you can drop a lot of cash on the boosters. Boosters are pretty cheap. It's about $1 a pack, but people are buying a lot of them. And I've heard of some people spending a lot of money just on those boosters, and they still don't have a complete set. So maybe not the best thing for a completionist. But one thing that kind of gave me some concern about this game, as interested in it as I am, is that I'm colorblind to some degree with green and red, a little bit of brownish in there as well, or at least my problem is the green and the red look brownish. Can't tell what color they are. But there's a lot of colors in Marvel Dice Masters, so I've heard a couple of things about people having issues with the colors on there. So I don't know how much this would affect me or people with varying degrees of color blindness, but it's probably not going to stop me from exploring the game and checking it out. But it's just something that's kind of like in the back of my head. I'm expecting to not have a good time with this game. However, I'm really hoping that that's not the case, and I'm pleasantly surprised. So, that's about it for the Game List. Final thoughts on the games that I talked about. Capo de Capi from Dr. Finn's Games. This is a pretty sweet press your luck, push your luck style game with some gamers game aspects in it with the mayor tokens, where you can basically mitigate the luck. And I know a lot of people are really adverse. They have adverse action or reactions to press your luck games. And the mayor tokens kind of, they let you get your groove back. They let you rein in some of that luck and really change the flow of the game. So this is a game that was a pleasant surprise for me, and I really enjoy it. It's going to be staying in my collection for quite some time. Friese's Landlord is another game that I really like the mechanisms in it. I like just how you can use your cards, you can do the buildings, you can put tenants in. It is not a friendly game at all. I mean, you're basically going to just try to steal tenants out from your opponents. You're going to try to wreck their buildings and so forth. It's an enjoyable game. You do need a little bit of table real estate in order to play this game, especially if you get a couple of buildings built. So just keep that in mind. I played it a couple of times on a a coffee table, and it was always kind of like shifting things around, trying to make them fit once again. But Friese's Landlord, again, another pretty cool game. I don't think it's readily available in the United States, but hopefully it'll come over here, or at least be more readily available by the companies that import the games, like Games Surplus, etc. The Builder's Middle Ages. This is a nice little game, definitely light, one that I would consider a micro game just because it's small. It's an enjoyable game. Overall, I don't know how much replayability they might get now that I think about it, but it is fun. I think I might try to introduce it to my son, who's 6 years old now, see if he can kind of pick up on doing those combinations with the cards and building the buildings and the machines and so forth. But the game is decent. It's got that annoying tin, which I talked about earlier, but otherwise it's an okay game. Definitely check it out. It might not be for everybody, might not be perfect for you or your collection, but it definitely is worth checking out. And then lastly, Mars Needs Mechanics. This was a pleasant surprise for me. It's an economic game with cards and set collection, and I really did enjoy it. It's got some cool interactions with the cards and how the market reprices itself. And I was really surprised at the low scores in the game, but I think the game is just made that way because you start off with 30 cogs, which is the money in the game, and you immediately just drop all the way down as you're buying things. And then hopefully if you do things properly, you'll reap your investments. So definitely check this one out as well, and this one will definitely be staying in my collection as well. So that's it for episode number 32. Make sure to check out This Board Game Life on Twitter. That's T Board Game Life. Follow This Board Game Life on Twitter, and I try to post on there as regularly as I can, and I post pictures of game sessions and all sorts of good stuff. So definitely check that out. There's a guild on BG. Definitely check that out as well. And any feedback that you have for the show, please send it to me either on Twitter, or you can go to thisboardgamelife.com. There's a contact page over there. And I'd love to hear from you guys. So thanks for listening, everybody. It's a pleasure as always, and hope you enjoy the show.